These hearings come forward, we're going to hear many different stories, and we'll let people speak for themselves rather than from the politicians. Speaking of the hearings, in the past we've always done 5 or 6 public hearings, and anywhere from 2,000 to 3,000 people will testify at those 5 hearings. I don't know how they're going to conduct the hearings. They're now talking about holding one of the hearings in Milwaukee at the Bradley Center, which seats 17,000 people. I haven't even calculated, if you gave everybody 2 minutes, how many days you'd have to be there. There would be never any end to this. And I don't know how they are going to construct a public dialogue to enable the public to be fully engaged. I can assure you that Nick Milroy and I, Janet Bewley, are going to be holding listening sessions on education. Then we're going to have listening sessions on community services. We'll try to break it down to try to reduce the number of people who want to testify on a topic. We'll do as much of that between now and the end of the budget as possible, because you deserve to have your voice heard before those decisions are made. Then the process, by the way, will be in about the end of March, the Fiscal Bureau, which is a nonpartisan agency that analyzes the fiscal matters for the legislature, will produce a budget document that reviews the facts. We will then have a briefing on those in finance. I'm a member of the finance committee, 16-member committee, 12 Republicans and 4 Democrats. I'll never climb Mount Everest, but that's the closest thing I get to. But that committee will then get a briefing. Then we'll be able to share more information about what the implications are in the budget. Then that committee will hold some hearings. We don't know how many. So beginning in April, you'll begin more of an opportunity for public input.
Well, the Fiscal Audit Bureau did say yesterday the true effect will be $1.68 billion with the property tax caps combined with the new budget bill.
I hadn't seen that.
That came out yesterday.
Well, then it's deeper than I thought. You see, I said it was 845. I thought it was 1.4. It's gotten worse.
I read 1.68 is what they released yesterday.
Well, I'll take their word over Governor Walker's.
Bob, I've known you for years. You know, the Farm Bureau, the ag issues we've been down in. We haven't always agreed on everything. Well, some things and some things not. But I mean, you've been a reasonable advocate for agriculture.
There's that word reasonable again.
I mean, I've never been considered reasonable someday. But my property taxes have continued to just hammer up.
Yeah.
And then my unemployment, my workers' comp rate for my employers has gone up. Yeah. And we have a major unemployment issue in this state.
Yes, we do.
And we have many things to deal with. And I think, you know, this is a very challenging issue. And elections have consequences, and we're not always going to agree. I mean, I disagree with the process, what happened. I may not always agree with everybody here. On the other hand, we have many more issues to solve on this, and we need to bring this state back together so we can honestly deal as honest brokers. And I think this thing started to break down last year when the big health care debate came. It was handled similarly to the way the Republicans handled it.
No, it wasn't.
But I mean, in all fairness, it was not popular, and there was majorities in the executive, the legislative branches. And they were able to pass what they wanted to, willed to pass. Yeah. I see no difference in that than here. Popular, unpopular, in fairness. But besides that, we still need to get back together. We should all be on the same team. Correct?
I don't disagree with that conclusion at all. I think you've heard me stress that in these remarks. I don't think anybody listening with objectivity could construe that my remarks today are partisan. They come from a point of view of trying to find a pathway to get back to protecting workers and solving problems. The difference, I would say, there's a main difference between the health care debate and this debate. And that is that you have 2/3 of the state, 2/3 of the public who strongly oppose. The health care debate was almost 50-50. The country was greatly confused about the issues. There is no middle ground on this one. When you look at the polls consistently, it's 2/3 here, 1/3 here. There's no 1 or 2, even 1 or 2% undecided. People know that the rights that were taken away were not going to cost Wisconsin any more money. They would not impact your property taxes, but they will. Now, if this budget goes into effect, sure, property taxes will be frozen. And well, they won't be frozen because values are going to start going up. People are going to pay more, but your roads are going to be in worse shape. Your children are going to get less of an equal education. Your community is not going to have the same opportunity to invest because it won't have the capacity to invest. They're not allowed to spend money on the things that they should. But Waukesha will be, New Berlin will be, Nicolay will be, the wealthier communities will. And that has to concern you as a citizen. It's not an economic issue, it's a fairness issue. And we're going to need to have many more of these conversations. But I'm in absolute agreement with you. We need to work to get together, but it takes both sides to try to get to that point. But thank you for your comments. Yes, sir. How about some others that have, any others? Because I know you've all, yes, back there.
Does the governor have to pay more for his health insurance and his pension and make a cut in pay?
Sure. Yes, he does. And he said so when he was inaugurated. And what I said before he introduced this bill, because I knew what he was attempting to do to some of this, to the Republican leadership, was why doesn't he announce that the non-represented employees are now going to have to pay the 5.6 and the 12 on April 1st? That would shame the rest of the employees to the point where they come back to the table. And you create a process that gets them back. Governor Walker has been in office for just a little over 2 months. He has never yet to sit down with the workers of this state to see how we can work things out. So he went to war before he even had a conversation with them. And that's not the Wisconsin way. So who else? Yes, sir, right here.
Are you aware of any provisions in this bill that are non-negotiable in the Republicans' mind? I guess what I'm thinking is the only way we can get control of this situation by turning back the Senate, getting some seats back in this recall effort? Or do you feel like you can work with some of these gentlemen you said are friends of yours?
Let us look at, it's a great question. During the discussions we had, and there were 3, by the way, Senator Cullen and I went to Illinois 3 times, well, in Wisconsin 3 times. Once was to meet with Scott Fitzgerald. There was a suggestion that we go up and have a conversation. We met at the same McDonald's, had a conversation. He went back and then announced that we were ready to come back to Wisconsin. I thought that was a bit strange. We had a second conversation with the governor's staff, and the third one was we went and had a Reuben sandwich at a Irish restaurant in Beloit. It was really kind of nice. And we didn't have a beer. But during those conversations, we talked about a process that I didn't think was a very smart one, but it might have been the only one available. And that was, well, you pass the bill. We don't vote for it. You pass the bill, and then on the first amendment of the budget, there is a reestablishment of certain rights. Now, I argued with them that that politically wasn't good for them because people would not understand how you take rights away one day and give them back another day. And I said, once you vote, you're simply going to intensify the opposition, and that's not good for your political interests. It's going to intensify the recall efforts. So it is clearly possible that you could see some kind of a trailer bill if reason were to prevail. I don't know if and when reason will prevail. I will do everything I can to find that point. The recalls are going to have a profound impact on things in Madison. There are recalls that apparently, I have nothing to do with the recalls. There are apparently close to enough signatures in 2 or 3 of the Republican districts. And there are 5 Democrats that have recalls against them. This will be a historic moment in American history, in America, where you have the record number of recalls at one time. We'll have to see what the outcome is. There is also an election on April 5th for Supreme Court. I think you will see record turnouts on that election. And that, I don't know how to predict. This is changing by the day and by the week. And so I think things are in flux. But back to your comment, I will do everything in my power. I've offered, Senator Cullen and I have offered to meet with the governor quietly, privately, no microphones, no press conference, to see if we can't get this thing back on track. But I will welcome that opportunity, but I don't want him to come out and publicly talk about what we talked about.